In this video, we're going to be going over how to count your macros for sustainable fat loss, and some bonus tips at the end to help you get closer to achieving your weight loss goals. So stay tuned. What is up, Next Level Nation? This is your man Johnny F here with Next Level Warrior, sharing insight and tips helping you become your next level self. If you're new here and appreciate this content, please consider subscribing to join the Next Level community and ring that bell notification to stay up to date with my videos posted every week. When it comes to sustainable fat loss, counting macros is an absolute must. This is a skill that over time as you develop will help you to better understand your body and control your physique while enjoying a variety of foods. The term macro, being the opposite of micro, refers to larger scale. And when it comes to nutrition, micronutrients are the vitamins and minerals contained within our food, and macronutrients are the big three categories you've all heard of: carbohydrates, protein, and fats. There is a fourth one, which is alcohol. However, we're not going to cover that in this video. Both carbohydrates and proteins contain 4 calories per gram, fats containing 9 calories per gram. These numbers will form the basis for the simple addition that you'll do once you have your macro targets set. Most of you probably knew all that stuff already, but at some point, all of us had no idea what a macro was. If this is new to you and something isn't making sense, make sure to ask down in the comments below. So, regardless of what your physique goals are, every macronutrient plays important roles in regulating your metabolism, appetite, and proper hormone function. For this reason, we cannot overlook any of them. Now, before you can set your macro targets for fat loss, you need to get an estimate of what your maintenance calories are. In order to estimate it, you can do one of two things. Use a calorie calculator, which estimates your basal metabolic rate and activity level to give you an idea of what your total energy expenditure is. There's a link in the description below if you want to check one out. The second option is to start counting your current calorie and macro intake without any changes to your diet for 1 to 2 weeks. I highly suggest the second option because these calculators can only estimate. They fail to take into account the major factor that will likely delay the process for you and frustrate you: your current metabolic rate. These calculators can't really gauge how much muscle mass you have, the accuracy of your activity levels, the intensity of your workouts, and another huge factor in your metabolic rate: how long you've actually been dieting on low calories before you even started counting your macros. These factors will affect what your true maintenance calories are, which is the baseline that we need to establish in order to set the best macros for the greatest success. I know, you probably want to dive right into that deficit, but just trust me on this. Slow and steady wins the race, as this is a game of sustainability. We do not want you to burn out before achieving your goals, possibly regaining the weight and stressing yourself out further. You need to understand that counting your macros and tracking your progress properly is a game of tuning in and getting to know your body. Adjustments to your macros will need to be made along the way if you're losing weight too quickly, too slowly, or you've hit a plateau. This is why tracking with multiple points of data from your macros, your weight, and measurements will help to make the best calorie adjustments. Setting your caloric deficit. Once you have a rough idea of your maintenance calories, we'll need to set your calorie deficit to achieve consistent fat loss. Using a 20 to 25% deficit works well and should achieve a 1 pound a week weight loss. For example, with a 160 pound individual whose maintenance calories is about 2,200, we multiply 2,200 by 0.25 and this will give us 550, the deficit. Subtract 550 from 2,200 and this will give us our daily calorie target that we'll build our macros from, which is 1,650. Establishing your macros. We always want to set our protein macro numbers first because they play the biggest role in maintaining our lean muscle mass, as well as reducing our hunger by keeping us full and satiated while we're losing weight in our calorie deficit. Choose a target between 0.8 to 1.2 grams per pound of total body weight. The larger your body fat percentage is, the lower that you should make this number. If you are a leaner individual and only have 10 to 20 pounds to lose, you are at a higher risk for muscle loss, so you'll want to stay at the higher end of that 0.8 to 1.2. Setting your fat macros. The fat we get from our food is imperative for proper nutrient absorption and hormonal processes. For this reason, your fat intake should never dip below 25%. Stay within the 25 to 35% range depending on what your food preferences are. Setting your carbohydrates. Carbohydrates help to support your leptin levels, a hormone that helps to regulate your appetite and metabolism. Carbs will also help to keep your testosterone to cortisol ratios in check, especially in active individuals, providing a better hormone balance. They keep you satiated, promote relaxation, and better sleep quality, reducing stress levels, which will all result in more effective weight loss for you. Using the previous example of a 1,650 calorie target for a 160-pound individual, the individual macros would look something like this. In choosing 0.9 grams, we multiply this number by the person's body weight, and we get 144 grams of protein. Then we take that number, multiply it by 4, and we get the total calories for protein in this macro split of 576. For fats, we take our calorie target, we multiply this by 25%, and this gives us 476. Then we take those calories, divide them by 9, and that gives us how many grams for our macro split of fats, which is 46. For carbohydrates, we add the total calories from our fat and our proteins, subtract this number from the total calorie target, and then divide the number by 4, and this will give you your macro target, in this case 165. The final numbers for this macro split end up being 145 grams of protein, 45 grams of fats, and 165 grams of carbs. It's always best to simplify by rounding up and down your numbers. Don't get too hung up on the numbers that you start with. Just estimate your maintenance, set your starting macros, take measurements, and be patient. Next, to track and count your macros, it's best to use a smartphone app. Most of the world seems to be using MyFitnessPal. I personally use Chronometer, but regardless of which one you do use, this is really going to help with the process for you, and it's going to store a library of the data for future use. Make sure, as an extra tip, to star and favorite the food choices that you do use often, as this will help to make it much quicker to log your data. Also, definitely use a digital food scale. This is going to be the most efficient and accurate way to log your food data into the app. Make sure that you're weighing everything that you can in its raw state. Meat, grains, starchy vegetables, weigh it all raw and choose the raw selection in the app. I totally overlooked this when I started counting macros years ago and delayed my progress for a solid month. If you've made any mistakes with counting macros in the past, let us know in the comments below. I could make a whole video on all the ways that I screwed up. Counting your macros is going to require time, effort, and consistency from your part to achieve your fat loss goals. Here are some bonus tips that I put together to make this easier for you. Aim to hit your macros within a 5% range. Hitting them 100% is next to impossible. This is why I call it a target. It's something you're aiming for. Do your best to stay within a 5% range of your targets and make sure to balance it out by the end of the week. Log your measurements for accurate progress. This will help to reduce stress and make better choices in case that scale isn't budging and you're tempted to drop your calories too soon. Use a tape measure once a month on your chest, navel, and hips, take front and side photos every single month, and record and log your average weekly weight. The more data points you have, the easier it will be to troubleshoot why your weight may not be dropping. It is possible that your weight won't go down for a couple weeks, but your waist measurement keeps getting smaller. Remember, we always want to diet on as many calories as possible. This will help delay the process of any metabolic adaptation that will occur. Implement foods that you enjoy. Even if they aren't considered healthy, use the 80-20 rule. Make sure that a solid 80% of your calories are coming from whole foods. Even though it can be overwhelming to learn all of this, you don't need a coach to set your macro targets and experiment. You are more than capable of developing the skill. So what do your macros look like? Are you making good progress? Maybe you're having a hard time with it. Let me know in the comments down below, and hit that like button if you appreciated this video. Make sure to subscribe to join the Next Level community. I'll catch you guys in the next video.